Good morning, Card Community. It's RJ back with another video. So let's get to it. Today's random Mike Schmidt item of the day. I have here a black and white photo. Now, this one, when I picked it up, I assumed it was a card from the photo cards that they sell at the stadiums. I assumed this was one of those, what later became sponsored by a Tasty Cake in this region. Originally was like the J Pro card packs, but this one doesn't seem to be this one. This one just seems to be a promotional photo that Mike Schmidt would sign for fans when he did public appearances, or maybe he would sign a 100 or two in a sitting, and the Phillies would give them away as prizes or something like that. Because it's blank back, but a lot of the cards that they sold at the stadiums were blank backed as well. But the size is wrong for all the ones I saw on the tradingcarddatabase.com that were, the ones you would buy at the stadium as a photo pack. It's all wrong. It doesn't match anything I could find online. So I'm assuming it must simply be a promotional photo for signature purposes. So I will add this to my collection, but I don't have any way to check it off the box. So that is my random Mike Schmidt item of the day. Random baseball item of the day. Very happy to have this because it's the first one of these particular items I ever purchased, and I just think they're so cool. They're very inexpensive comparatively speaking, considering what they represent. But I picked up a B18 from 1914, what they call a blanket, and what this was is a piece of felt with a baseball player image on it. They would wrap around a pouch of tobacco when they sold it. And this was, obviously, not like everything else, was a promotional product, but it contained a particular individual in the sporting world. In this case, a legendary player named Fred Snodgrass from the New York Giants. I couldn't find a Philly player at the show, but when I saw that this was very inexpensive, I snagged, I'll just say it was less than $50, which, is a pretty good price as far as I'm concerned for something that's over 100 years old. And again, for most of the common players, and Fred Snodgrass is a common, but for most of your common players, you can get these very inexpensive. And it's one of those things I think everybody ought to have one, at least one in their collection, just to say you have it. And Fred Snodgrass, back in 1911, the Yankees won the pennant, and they're playing in the World Series against the Philadelphia Athletics. Well, unfortunately, oh no, I'm sorry, they were playing the Boston Red Sox, I believe. I apologize for not looking up the details and sharing it properly with you. But anyway, it was the bottom of the ninth, or maybe top of the ninth. I think it was the bottom of the ninth. The Giants were winning. Anyway, there were two outs, and what happened was a fly ball was hit to Fred Snodgrass, and he dropped it. It was an easy catch, and it just popped out of his glove. And the other team rallied and defeated the Giants on that final game of the World Series that year. And, Snodgrass took a lot of the blame, but there was other things that happened in the exact same game during the exact same inning that led to the downfall. But again, the game would have been older if he had caught that ball. So Fred Snodgrass is known in infamy still to this day. People will call that place Snodgrass's muff or bluff or error, bonehead, whatever. So, but again, I'm happy to have a silk. A lot of times these blankets are sometimes called silks, but they're felt, so they're oftentimes just called blankets. B18 from 1914. Happy to have one of these in my collection. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to find a Philly player somewhere in the future, but at the moment, I'm happy to have that one. All right, so today's trivia question. Not too long ago in baseball history, I won't tell you what I mean by that phrase, but not too long ago, there was a season, let me put it that way, a season that came down to the very last day, the 162nd game of the year, where a lot of the pennant races hadn't been decided. Now, most of your, what do I want to say, most of the divisional crowns had been chosen, but there was a lot of question as to who the two wild card teams would be. And in fact, in the American and the National League, there were two teams that were tied for the wild card spot on the last day of the season. All right. So if they both won or they both lost, there would have been a playoff game. But if one of them won their game and the other lost their game, because those four teams, the two in the American League and the two in the National League that were tied, they weren't playing each other on the last day of the season. All four of them were playing other games. So the whole baseball world were watching four deathly important games to see who would be the wild card teams for the postseason. So I'll even tell you a little bit about what happened. The Phillies played the Braves. The Braves were tied with the Cardinals. The Cardinals just trounced the team that they were playing. The Cardinals won. So the Braves had to win to force a playoff game. The Red Sox were playing the Orioles, and the Tampa Bay Rays were playing the Yankees. Those were the four teams involved. Cardinals won quickly and handily in their game. Phillies were playing the Braves. Red Sox versus Orioles, Rays versus Yankees. In the National League, again, the Cardinals won handily. The Phillies were losing 3-2 to the Braves. They came back in extra innings to go ahead, and the Braves could not come from behind. So the Braves lost. The Cardinals won, and then that wild card was settled. The American League one was even more exciting. The Yankees went out to a huge lead over the Rays. They went up 7-0 early, and it was a foregone conclusion that they would win the game, and the Rays would have lost. Now the Red Sox, on the other hand, they were winning their game. In fact, they took a 3-2 lead into the ninth inning with Jonathan Papelbon closing for them. So, believe it or not, the Rays came back to tie the Yankees with two out in the ninth inning. So that game went into extra innings. Papelbon gave up the lead in their game with the Orioles, and the Orioles were playing in Baltimore, so the Orioles had a walk-off win. The Red Sox had lost, and they needed the Rays to lose to force a playoff game in their season. But again, they had been down 7-0, so Red Sox were feeling pretty good. Then they climbed their way back to tie it in the bottom of the ninth, because the Rays were playing at home. And then they went into extra innings, and Evan Longoria hit a walk-off home run to send them into the postseason as a wild card winner. All that happened on one day in baseball. And in fact, the Major League Baseball, it was such a great day. They still talk about it to this day. They actually put out a video called Game 162. You can look it up on YouTube. I've watched it many times. It's just a fascinating relook at that season. My question to you is, what season was that? What year did all of that happen to get people into the postseason? Send me an answer to that question. Your prize is going to be this awesome, from the Conlon collection, a colorized version of Nolan Ryan shaking hands with Walter Johnson. The big train meets the Ryan Express. Again, I've talked about this image a number of times in the past in various ways, but Walter Johnson is actually shaking hands with Lou Gehrig in this picture. I don't know why they were together. This was before the All-Star competition. Lou, it would have been in the 20s. Lou was at the beginning of his career. Johnson was at the end of his career, so maybe it was in a game between the two teams. I don't know, but it's actually Lou Gehrig, and they obviously airbrushed out Lou and put in Nolan Ryan. So this is your prize. It's an insert from the Conlon set. It's like they made a series of colored images over the 5 years that the cards existed, and this is number 30 out of that smaller print run of colorized cards. That is your prize. If you can answer me that question, name the year in which that crazy finish to the season happened, Send me an email with the correct answer. I will include my email in the description below, along with a repeat of that question. You will have today and tomorrow to answer, and we will pick a winner on Sunday, all right? All right, so today, what I want to show off is the third and final set I purchased from the Philly show. And what it is something I'm trying to collect all the various years of this production of this particular product. I'm trying to collect them all. I have maybe half done, but I don't even think it's half of the years. They're small sets. This one's only numbered to 60, but it gets pricey. It's real pricey as you go towards the earlier years of this product being released. And it is the 1979 Kellogg's baseball set. Kellogg's, you know, your Frosted Flakes, all your other Kellogg's products. This one was probably just Frosted Flakes because Tony's image is on the back of all the cards. But the Kellogg's cereal company produced these little cards and inserted them one per box of cereal. So let's go through who made the cut. There were 60 cards. So who made the cut in 1979? They made these cards, I think, from about 1970 through 1983. I have the 74 set. I found it on eBay for a really cheap price, so I snagged it. After that, I have 79 through 83. I've got them all. But I got to get all the ones from the 70s. And those early ones from the 70s, you could be $1,000 for one set of like 60 cards. So anyway, so they just have it's hard to see. The image is kind of blurry, but it's just the last name of the person and what their position was. So you got Bruce Sutter, Ted Simmons, Ross Grimsley. Look at the hair. Look at the hair. Good Lord. Ross Grimsley. What in the world? Nordhagen. Wayne Nordhagen. Barely remember Wayne Nordhagen. Jim Palmer. Johnson. John Henry Johnson. You know, it's 60 cards, so they got to get into some lesser known players. Jason Thompson. Tom Zachary. Or is it Pat Zachary? No, Pat Zachary. I always get Tom Zachary confused with Pat Zachary. Pat Zachary played in the modern era. Tom Zachary played back in the 20s and 30s. He's the one who gave up Babe Ruth's 60th home run, Tom Zachary. Dennis Eckersley on the Red Sox. Love that. Paul Splittorff, longtime pitcher for the Royals. Big fan of Tom. Or Paul. Big fan of Paul Splittorff. Love that name. Ron Guidry. Big wad of chaw. Side of his cheek there. Jeff Burrows. Guy who hit a lot of home runs but struck out a lot. Jeff Burrows. Rod Carew, it's a pretty looking card. That one's a lot better than the others. These all look really faded. You can see for whatever reason, some of these are very faded, but I don't care. I have them. I have it in my collection. That's what I'm happy about. Jim Rice, really nice card there. Gary Maddox for the Phillies. Willie McCovey, your Hall of Famer. Steve Carlton, Hall of Famer. J.R. Richard, one of those what might have been had J.R. Richard remained healthy. Very early Paul Molitor card, very cool. Molitor's rookie season would have been 78, so this isn't really a rookie card. Dave Parker, Pete Rose, looking very Pete Rose-ish. Vida Blue on the Giants by this time. He had moved on from the Oakland Athletics. You can see back here, if you can't remember, his last season with Oakland was 77. Richie Zisk. Richie Zisk, to me, is the guy with the, last alphabetically when you talk about really good players. By now, there's probably some other players who might qualify for really good with a name, last or further back alphabetically than Richie Zisk. Darrell Porter went on to great times with the Cardinals, like he won a World Series with the Cardinals. Dan Dreesen of the Reds. Jeff Zahn. Yep, Jeff Zahn. Phil Niekro. Tom Siva, real close together. Freddie Lynn. And we got Bill Bonham. George Foster. Terry Poole. Always loved Terry Poole. He was one of those slap-happy guys. He just drove you crazy when you played him for the Astros. The Candyman, John Candelario, wearing the great Pirates pillbox hat. I love that. Bob Nepper. Freddie Patek. What do they list Freddie's height as? I always think Freddie was like 5'5" or 5'4". What do they list his height at? Trying to see it. I don't see it here. What? Down there at the bottom? I don't see it. I don't see his height. Right there is. Yeah, 5'4". They list Freddie Patek's height as 5'4". Freddie Patek was probably the best little man that ever played the game. Awesome fielder. Awesome. Chris Chambliss. Bob Forsch. Love Bob Forsch. Great pitcher. Ken Griffey Sr. Jack Clark. Good slugger. Dwight Evans. Borderline Hall of Famer. Lee Mazzilli. Loved by the chicks. People, all the women thought, especially in New York, thought Lee Mazzilli was a sex symbol. I have no comment on that. Mario Guerrera. Don't know Mario Guerrera. Larry Boa for the Phillies. Carl Yastrzemski. Reggie. It's interesting here, for whatever reason, they listed Reggie as R.M. Jackson. Everybody else just has their last name. But they put Reggie, they put R.M. Reginald Martinez Jackson. I laugh about this. I always say, when my wife and I first got married, I wanted to name all my kids after baseball players. I mean, you understand, it's baseball, it's me. I wanted everybody to be a baseball player. And in looking at the history of baseball, there's 3 big names with Jackson, okay? One of them it's not big, but he is a Hall of Famer. There's an individual named Travis Jackson who was a Hall of Fame shortstop for the Giants. He played back in the 20s during their glory years when they won like 4 pennants in a row. So Travis Jackson is in the Hall of Fame. I wanted a Travis. Middle name would have been Calvin, so Travis Calvin Jackson. The other one would have been Joseph Jackson, Joseph Jefferson Jackson. Final one would have been Reginald Martinez Jackson. And sadly for me, or maybe properly for my wife, I didn't get my way, and I never had a Reggie Jackson in my family. So Rick Russell, longtime quality pitcher, ups and downs. Mike Flanagan. Gaylord Perry with the Padres, the wandering Perry with many different teams, but he's with the Padres here. George Brett. Brett in his younger days always had a big wad of chaw. Let me see if I can. There's the image. Big wad of chaw on his cheek, George Brett, early days. Reynolds. Craig Reynolds. I guess he was Craig Reynolds more than Gordon. Gordon Craig Reynolds. Everybody knew him as Craig. Davey Lopes. Loved Davey Lopes on the Dodgers. Billy Allman, if I remember. Yeah, it's Billy Allman. Howell. Roy Lee Howell. Kind of remember Roy Lee Howell. Frank Tanana. Don't remember Frank Tanana having a mustache too often, but here he does there. Doug Rao. Rick Monday. John Matlick. This is probably why, because now here's an R.D. Jackson. Love this. I won't get into too much. Ronnie D. Jackson. Believe it or not, that is my name. Those who know my name is Ronald Jackson. My middle initial is D. I shan't give you any more information than that, but every once in a while I think about collecting cards of Ron Jackson. He has a number of cards, close to 100, off the tradingcarddatabase.com. He played for many, many years, so it makes sense there'd be a couple cards of him. And then lastly, Jim Sundberg, excuse me, longtime catcher for the A's. So this is the 1979 Kellogg's set. What's that make it? The 6th set I have of Kellogg's cards. And again, these go back all the way to 1970, I do believe. So I got a lot more to acquire. But again, they get a little pricey. Once you get out of the 80s, they start, going up in price. And I was able to knock this. The guy he wanted 70, I think, on this one. And I got it down to like 65 or something like that. No, he wanted, that's what, he wanted 60. I asked for 70 and he gave me a $5 discount. But, you know, they're hard to find in complete set versions, and they are very pricey when you do. So I think this one, it's a little sad that all the red is kind of faded a little bit, but I don't care too much. I'm just happy to have a whole Tops, or not Tops, but Kellogg's set for my master Kellogg's set run as I begin to get through there. So there you have it. That's all I have for you today. That is my run for this week. A lot of cool stuff I was able to show off thanks to my trip to the Philly show. And I didn't even spend too much money. I brought enough to buy a really good rookie card of like Pete Rose or Dick Allen, somebody big, but I was able to hold off and not do that without getting a quality one at a time. So anyway, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please consider like, subscribing, commenting, and all that jazz. Really do appreciate your support as I try my best to support everybody else in this great card community, all right? Come back again on Sunday. We'll do the trivia recap, and I'll start thinking about what I'm going to show you next week, all right? Thanks for tuning in. Have a good weekend. Take care.